Without a doubt, one of the best ways to fund the growth of your company is by running internal promotions that fund the next phase of your growth. But what happens when you're ready for outside money? And how do you know if you're ready to work with an investor? And what kind of investor is right for you? Well, that's what we're going to cover today. Okay, so I know there are some business people, including the people on my board of directors, who's going to disagree with me about what I'm about to say. But for the most part, I prefer to fund the majority of the growth in each of my companies internally, meaning that when we need money to grow, whether it's to hire more talent or to grow our office space or to buy new technology or whatever it is, if your company is built right and you're not leaving a lot of money on the table, then the swiftest, fastest way to fund the growth is by internal promotions. But what about when you need external money for a much bigger jump forward? Let's say that you're ready to grow, but in order to scale properly, you need a cash infusion of, let's say, $10 million. And if that's the case, and you can prove your projections, obviously, most investors that you pitch are going to say something like, all right, well, I'll give you $5 million up front, and we expect X amount of growth in these three areas. And if you reach that within blank time frame, then we'll release another $3 million. And we expect X amount of growth after $3 million and in these three areas. And if you reach that, then we'll release the final $2 million, right? So they release things in chunk because most investors, they kind of want to hedge their bets and not release the full amount up front just in case you don't meet expectations. So whatever the investment is that you're seeking, most investment firms will break that up into these smaller chunks and drip it to you over 2 to 3 stages. And again, that's so that they protect their investment, but it's also to keep you motivated to reach your numbers. And that's normal for any investment, let's say over about $5 million. I mean, it's not set in stone, but that seems to be what's normal across the board. But what kind of investor should you be looking for? Are you going to pitch family and friends? Are you going to be looking for smart money, meaning that the person or the group funding you also brings specific knowledge or key relationships that they're going to leverage to help you scale? That's how our investment firm works. We don't invest in a company unless we know that we have experience and relationships that we could call on, or maybe C-level team members that we could bring on to scale that company once we fund it, because we're looking for as close to a guaranteed return as possible. That's not possible, obviously, but as close to one as possible. And we have a very, very strong track record of winning investments because we not only bring money, but we personally help each company to hit their targets. Or maybe you're looking for an angel investor or venture capital money or investment bankers. Like, what is it? You have to know that. Now, if you've never done this before, getting funded is amazingly confusing and it's really easy to get taken advantage of. So you need to prepare so you at least look like you know what's going on. And you should start by writing down the answer to these 5 questions. 1, what size investment are you looking for? Is it 200,000? Is it $1 million, 10 million, 30 million, or somewhere in between? Second, who would be the perfect fit investor for you? Is it somebody with contacts in fulfillment or someone with contacts in distribution? Or maybe it's another business person who needs a really big deduction on their tax return. I mean, I know a lot of business people who invest in other businesses because they just need a good write-off. And that might be a great way for them to write off a chunk of their money for their personal taxes and hopefully make their investment back plus a lot more when that other business kind of grows. Third, how much, if any, say in the business would you like them to have, meaning voting rights? Are you not going to give them any voting rights, meaning do you want them to just kind of fork over some money and then have no say in the business decisions? Or maybe you give them a board position or an advisory position, or maybe they're a full partner with full voting rights in your company. Fourth, how much are you planning to give them in return for their investment? Is it going to be their investment plus interest? Or are you going to give them a piece of the profits? Or maybe equity in the sale if you sell. And fifth, what exactly will you use the money for? I mean, are you hiring a new C-suite? Are you buying a new building? Are you scaling a proven marketing campaign? What is it? And that list has to be super, super long. Like, list it all out and make it very thorough. Now, at the very least, you need to know those 5 things, but then you need to be able to clearly and succinctly prove to someone in a few minutes, I mean really fast, what you're building, what success the company has had so far that has set you up for big growth right now, what success you personally have had in the past that makes you able to handle that new growth, right? That's a super important one for me as an investment firm. We invest in people more than we invest in companies. So I need to know about the person. Also, you need to be clear on exactly how much you need to grow this year and beyond, and exactly what the money is going to be used for, and who your competitors are, and how you're going to take their market share and not get squashed by them, and what obstacles you'll encounter, and what relationships you already have that can be leveraged, but also what relationships you need to attain in order to reach your target. And by the way, if you've been in business for more than a couple of years, you should already know most of that stuff. And if you don't yet know all of that, I promise you that after you do this exercise, you will grow in size and profit and reach even without any additional investment because of the clarity that you have. But I've had people approach me with far less information than that, asking for funding. And I've also had people approach me with far, far more information. And after hearing literally hundreds of pitches, let me tell you the secret. The very best way to keep the attention of anyone you're pitching is to keep it short, powerful, and backed up with substantiation so that they know you've done your research. Because if I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, I will probably move on to the next pitch. Why? Because there's so many businesses that need funding. And I've been doing this for over a decade, and the volume of businesses needing funding has grown every single year. So it's important that you know the answers to the right questions before you even think about soliciting an investment. It's just common sense, right? And after you put some thought into those questions, here's what you need to know about some of the most common investor groups. And by the way, I know I'm covering a lot in this video, and I apologize. I probably should have broken it up into 2 or 3 videos, but if you have any questions about anything I'm saying, just hit me up in the comments below and I'll answer you there. So the most common investor groups are an investment firm who's going to take your idea and go out there and sell it for you. I mean, they'll go out there and they'll pitch your idea to all their contacts and they'll help you secure the funds that you need in exchange for a piece of the pie. On the other hand, a venture capital firm is going to fund you. They will directly fund you from their bank account. But most likely, they're going to want to bring on a proven team, like maybe a COO, a CEO, a CFO, CMO, something like that. Because that'll give them a level of certainty that you'll reach your goals and that they'll make their investment back plus a lot more. And most VCs are going to require an ownership in your company in exchange for lending you the money. Then you have what some entrepreneurs think of as probably the easiest route, which is an angel investor, which is usually less formal than a VC firm and can be anyone from your family and friends to crowdfunding to an actual angel firm. And most angel investors, they actually want to support business growth. And they also want to get a good return at the same time, right? On their money, or they want convertible debt, or both. Another investor is an equity partner. And they usually cut you a check to be an actual partner in your company. The value here is that you choose your partner, right? If you choose your partner right, they're going to come with a lot of very helpful knowledge and contacts and probably be highly motivated because they're now a business partner of yours to make sure that you grow. Now, there's a lot of other kinds of investors, but those are the most common. And here's a really smart rule of thumb, no matter who you work with. If they are just investing money, then they should have no active interest in the company other than making interest on the investments that they just made. But if they bring smart money or experience or relationships that you could leverage to the table, then you can bet that they're going to ask for a piece of the growth of your company. And that's smart. But listen, that piece of the growth can be a piece of the growth from the day that they invest forward. It does not need to include the value that you've built up prior to their cash infusion. It's totally up to you. Now, I hope all this makes sense, but I have a bonus for you. Because no matter what stage of growth that you're at, whether you're funding your growth with internal launches or you're seeking some big investment capital to grow right now, we all need an unbiased review of what's working and also what might not be working anymore in our business. Because the greatest cause of stagnation in any company, the reason most companies hit plateaus in their growth and their revenue is because they fail to see the roadblocks that stop momentum in their tracks. And that could be very frustrating. I mean, I know I struggled in business for over a decade, and I know what it's like to work 20-hour days when something isn't quite working the way I wanted it to. But I've also built nearly a dozen successful companies. And I've also helped other businesses who have 5, 10, even 20x their profits and bring in millions of extra dollars because businesses that are built to grow using tactics like we just covered in this video always grow. On the other hand, businesses that were not specifically engineered to grow rarely grow, and they often hit plateaus. But when you know how to grow effectively, then scaling your business and funding your growth becomes predictable. And the very first step is to review where you are and what needs to be fixed right now at the stage that you're at today, which most likely is different than the things that needed to be fixed 6 months ago or a year ago. So I want to give you free access to the tool that we use to monitor my companies. It's the Built to Grow Review. And if you use the link in this description or go to builttogrowreview.com/123, you could get free access to it. But you have to use that link. So far, probably over 8,000 entrepreneurs and CEOs have used it to help them scale faster and become far more profitable. And use this as one of your top tools to collapse timeframes and scale more this year than you might have ever thought possible. Also, if this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get first access to every business tip video.